Tonight, you'll pull on a jacket without thinking about it. You'll do it because it's cold outside. That's the story you've always been told. Humans got cold. Humans invented clothes. Simple, but the real answer is far stranger. Clothing didn't start as a shield against the weather. It started as something closer to a second skin, grown not from fur, but from a problem your own body created for itself. And the evidence for it isn't buried in some ancient cave. It's living on your head right now. Let that sink in for a second. Somewhere between 1 and 3 million years ago, your ancestors were covered in hair, just like every other primate around them. Thick, dense, built-in insulation. Then something happened. Slowly, across hundreds of thousands of years, that hair thinned out almost everywhere on the body, leaving behind bare, sweat-soaked skin. Why would evolution do that? The leading theory points to heat, not cold. Early humans on the African savanna were becoming endurance hunters, chasing prey for hours under a brutal sun. A furry body traps heat. A body that sweats freely through millions of exposed pores can run for miles without overheating. Losing the fur wasn't a flaw. It was a performance upgrade. But an upgrade for one problem creates another. Without fur, nights on the savanna turned cold and dangerous. Without fur, skin was exposed to sun, thorns, insects, every hazard the world could throw at it. Your ancestors had traded a coat for speed, and now they needed a replacement, something they could put on and take off whenever the environment demanded it. That replacement was clothing. And here's where the story gets genuinely strange. For decades, nobody could pin down when this actually happened. Fabric rots, hides disintegrate. There's no fossil record of a shirt from 200,000 years ago. So how do you date an invention that leaves no trace? The answer came from lice. In 2003, a team led by geneticist Mark Stoneking at the Max Planck Institute studied the DNA of human body lice, the kind that live specifically in clothing, not on skin or in head hair. Body lice are a completely different species from head lice. And species don't just appear out of nowhere. They evolve to fill a new niche. Stoneking's team realized something important. Body lice could only have evolved once humans started wearing clothes, because clothing was the niche they evolved to exploit. So by tracing the genetic divergence between body lice and head lice, calculating a kind of biological clock, the researchers estimated when that split occurred. Their answer was roughly 170,000 years ago. Sit with that number for a moment. That means humans walked around fur-free and clothing-free for possibly over 1 million years before anyone invented the first garment. Bare skin was your baseline for far longer than a coat was. Around the same period, researchers found something else worth noticing. Archaeologist Ian Gilligan at the University of Sydney has argued that clothing wasn't just a response to cold snaps. It tracked ice ages with striking precision. As global temperatures dropped and Earth entered its harsher glacial periods, evidence for tools linked to hide preparation, scrapers, awls, needle-like implements becomes far more common in the archaeological record. Gilligan's research suggests something counterintuitive. Simple wrapped hides, thrown over the shoulders like a cape, were likely humanity's first clothing. Fitted, sewn garments, the kind with sleeves and tailored shapes, came much later, arriving alongside eyed needles roughly 40,000 years ago. That's when clothing stopped being a blanket and became something closer to what you're wearing right now. Here's the twist that changes everything you just heard. If clothing were purely about surviving cold, you'd expect it to appear and disappear with the temperature, rising in ice ages, vanishing in warm periods. And for a while, it looks that way. But archaeologists have found something odd. Once complex, sewn clothing appeared, it never fully went away, even in warmer climates where it wasn't strictly necessary for survival. Why keep something you no longer need? Because somewhere along the way, clothing stopped being only about temperature. It became about identity. Anthropologists studying the tools and ornamentation from this period have found beads, pigments, and decorative stitching appearing on garments as early as 40,000 years ago. Clothing wasn't just keeping people alive anymore. It was telling other people who you were, what group you belonged to, what status you held. Think about what that means. The moment humans started decorating their coverings, instead of just wearing them, clothing crossed a threshold. It became a form of language, worn on the body, readable at a glance, long before written words existed. A particular pattern might signal which tribe you came from. A particular color might mark you as a hunter, a healer, someone to be respected, or someone to avoid. That's not so different from what happens today when you get dressed. You might tell yourself you're just picking an outfit that's practical for the weather. But somewhere in that choice is also a signal. The brand on your chest, the cut of your jacket, the color you reach for on a day you want to feel confident, or the color you avoid on a day you'd rather not be seen. None of that is really about temperature either. It's about the same ancient instinct your ancestors had 40,000 years ago, wrapped in a hide by a fire, deciding to add one more stitch of color just to say something without speaking. And it goes even deeper than status. Psychologists have found that what you wear can quietly shift how you think and perform, a phenomenon researchers have called enclosed cognition. In a well-known 2012 study, researchers Hajo Adam and Adam Galinsky found that people wearing a coat they believed belonged to a doctor performed better on attention tasks than people wearing the exact same coat when told it was a painter's smock. The garment hadn't changed. The story attached to it had. And that story alone was enough to change behavior. So the jacket you reach for tonight isn't just fabric keeping heat against your skin, it's carrying the weight of an invention that took your ancestors over 1 million bare exposed years to arrive at. It's carrying threads of identity that started as beads sewn into hide by firelight, and it's quietly telling your own brain who you're about to be for the next few hours. You didn't invent any of that. You inherited it. Every time you get dressed, you're repeating an act that helped a furless, sweating, endurance-running species survive ice ages it was never built for. You're wearing armor your ancestors spent 1 million years designing without a single blueprint, refined by trial, error, and cold nights that killed the people who guessed wrong. Tonight, you'll pull on a jacket without thinking about it, but now you know it was never really about the cold at all.